Love you. Her HOA standards burned a hero's service dog, but her reign of terror was about to crumble. The acrid scent of ammonia and vinegar still burned Jack's Thorne's nostrils, a phantom reminder of the day his world almost shattered. He could still hear Buddy's pained yelp, see his loyal German shepherd desperately pawing at his burning eyes. How could anyone be so cruel? Security footage had captured it all. Brenda Sterling, the neighborhood's self-appointed HOA queen, aggressively spraying a chemical concoction directly into Buddy's face. Buddy, his rock, his lifeline, was suffering because of her malice. Brenda, in her designer yoga pants, had no idea she'd just committed a federal crime, one that carried the weight of assaulting a federal officer, a $50,000 fine, 6 months in federal prison, and a felony record that would obliterate her precious real estate career. But Jax wasn't thinking about her career then. He was consumed by a cold fury. For months, this Purple Heart veteran had tried to be diplomatic, to reason with Brenda. She'd ignored every hint, every plea. Now she'd handed him an undeniable weapon. What would you have done when that spray bottle came out? Jax, 34, a former Army medic and Purple Heart recipient, was the kind of man who'd give you the shirt off his back. Just 3 years prior, he was saving lives in Afghanistan, when an IED blast stole part of his hearing and left him with PTSD that struck like a freight train. His marriage couldn't survive the war's aftermath. Seeking peace, Jax moved to Pinewood Heights, a quiet Colorado HOA community of 200 homes, where the biggest scandal used to be forgotten trash cans. It was a perfect place for healing, especially with Buddy by his side. 4-year-old Buddy, 85 pounds of German Shepherd brilliance, was specifically trained for Jax's PTSD and hearing loss. When anxiety spiked, Buddy offered deep pressure therapy. If someone approached Jax's blind side, Buddy became his buff. The metallic jingle of Buddy's tags on the sidewalk was the calming soundtrack to Jax's recovery. Peace reigned until 6 months ago, when Brenda Sterling, 52, a 15-year real estate veteran, was elected HOA vice president. Driving her white Mercedes SUV with the vanity plate PRT Val, Brenda believed she was protecting property values by enforcing proper order. In reality, she craved legal authority to make everyone else miserable. Obsessed with fake service animal fraud, TikToks, Brenda morphed into a self-appointed disability detective. She patrolled in her SUV, stopwatch in hand for sprinklers, ruler for grass height. The glint of sun off her windshield became a dreaded warning. Then came Jax's first certified letter notice of violation. Unauthorized pet. It claimed Buddy, weighing 85 pounds, violated the one small pet under 25 pounds rule. A $500 fine plus 50 teller daily until Buddy was removed. Jax's response was textbook: ADA documentation, vet certifications, Buddy's training records, everything any reasonable person would need. But Brenda's reply was chilling. Documentation can be faked. I know a fake service animal when I see one, and that's just an expensive pet. It hit Jax then. This wasn't ignorance, but willful discrimination cloaked in HOA power. Brenda began photographing Jax and Buddy, whispering gossip about him gaming the system. She even posted in the community Facebook group about a service animal fraud epidemic. Jax tried one last diplomatic plea, inviting Brenda for coffee. He calmly explained his needs, showed her Buddy's training responses, the comforting coarse fur of Buddy under his fingers during anxiety episodes. Should have been proof enough. But Brenda scoffed. I don't believe in invisible disabilities. If you're really disabled, it should be obvious to everyone. That's when Jax knew this was going to get ugly. 2 weeks later, another certified letter arrived demanding Jax appear at an emergency HOA board meeting. Brenda, armed with 17 pages of internet articles on fake service animal penalties, entered the community center like a prosecutor. Manila folders, color-coded tabs, reading glasses perched dramatically. The smell of stale coffee and Brenda's vanilla perfume created a suffocating tension. If you're really disabled, Brenda declared to the 5-person board, then prove it publicly. We need your complete military medical records, psychiatric evaluations, and doctor's notes. The community has a right to verify these claims. This was Brenda's first fatal error. Jax, post-injury, had devoured disability rights laws, partly from a VA social worker's warning about this exact scenario. Demanding medical records from disabled residents isn't just rude, it's federally illegal. Jax, outwardly compliant, presented his own folder. Inside, not medical records but actual law. Actually, Brenda, Jax's voice was steady as granite. What you just demanded violates federal housing law. Under the Americans with Disabilities Act, you cannot ask for medical records, require special ID cards for service animals, or demand proof of disability. The only legal questions are, is this a service animal required because of a disability? And what work has the dog been trained to perform? The frantic clicking of Brenda's acrylic nails against her clipboard filled the sudden silence. Her internet research hadn't covered this legal landmine. But entitled people don't back down. They double down. You're hiding behind technicalities. Brenda snapped. I propose a new HOA rule. All service animals must pass a community-administered test. Let the neighbors vote on whether your dog seems legitimate. Eleanor Green, a retired teacher on the board, shifted uncomfortably. Brenda, I don't think we can legally. Real service dogs wouldn't need special protection from reasonable community standards. Brenda interrupted, her voice rising to a pitch that made dogs nervous. Emily Carter, a young mom, spoke up from the back, mentioning her autistic son adored seeing Buddy. His calm presence helped during transition. But Brenda had her voting bloc. Robert Bob Davis, a retired cop, Patricia Patty Miller, PTA president, and David Morris, a small business owner obsessed with property values. Jax's palms were sweating, not from fear but controlled fury. He requested a 30-day delay to gather additional documentation, knowing he needed nothing. He just wanted to see the true depth of Brenda's discrimination. In those 30 days, Jax uncovered Brenda's pattern. She'd targeted Miss Jenkins, an elderly resident with an oxygen tank, calling it unsightly. She'd harassed the family with a mobility scooter, demanding board approval for their ramp. Jax was merely the latest victim in her systematic campaign to purge anyone she deemed undesirable. Brenda was running a one-woman gentrification scheme, weaponizing HOA authority. What she didn't know was she'd just armed a Purple Heart recipient with everything he needed to dismantle her kingdom. Brenda's 30-day deadline arrived like Christmas morning for a chaos lover. She'd spent weeks on her community awareness campaign, a euphemism for making Jax's life hell. First, anonymous flyers appeared in mailboxes. Service dog fraud, what every homeowner needs to know. Is your neighbor scamming the system? She'd spent hours at Kinko's, official-looking letterhead, stock photos of aggressive dogs, fake statistics about emotional support animal abuse, all designed to incite fear. Then the petition drive. Every evening at 5:30, Brenda waited at the mailboxes, clipboard in hand. We need to clarify our pet policies, she'd purr with fake concern, for everyone's safety and property values. But her masterpiece was her surveillance. She'd follow Jax and Buddy, phone camera recording, narrating like a twisted nature documentary. Day 12 of monitoring the alleged service animal, she'd mutter, loud enough for Jax to hear. Subject appears to be engaging in normal pet behavior. No obvious disability assistance. Observed. The crunch of gravel under her designer sneakers became the soundtrack of their evening. Jax's jaw clenched. This is where his military training kicked in, the part Brenda utterly underestimated. In the Army, when targeted, you don't react emotionally. You document everything. You prepare. You wait for their critical mistake. Jax began his own documentation project. Every email Brenda sent was screenshot. Every social media post archived. Every confrontation recorded. He installed security cameras, not just for protection, but because he sensed Brenda's escalation. He reached out to Sophia Rodriguez, a paralegal 3 streets over. Sophia, a keen observer of neighborhood gossip, recognized discrimination instantly. Over coffee, Sophia revealed something that chilled Jax to the bone. Jax, you're not Brenda's first target, she said, spreading out her own manila folder. I've been quietly documenting her for months. Mrs. Jenkins and her oxygen concentrator, the Rodriguez family, whose autistic son had backyard meltdowns. Brenda went after them all. 3 families sold at below market prices, just to escape her. Jax realized Brenda wasn't a petty tyrant. She was systematically forcing out disabled residents, special needs families, the elderly. It was a form of ethnic cleansing, but targeting vulnerability instead of race. Brenda even brought in her brother-in-law, Mark Sterling, a property management consultant, with 0 qualifications, but a talent for intimidation. Mark showed up daily, measuring grass to the quarter inch, timing sprinklers, photographing Buddy's bathroom habits like a forensic analyst. Mark's work boots crunching Jax's driveway at 7 a.m. became psychological warfare. Jax watched Mark measure the same rosebush 3 times, clipboard in hand, from his kitchen window. What Brenda didn't know was that every single violation was captured by Jax's security camera. Every measurement, every photo, every tactic. Jax was building a federal case, one ridiculous HOA citation at a time. Community pressure mounted. Brenda's supporters avoided Jax. An anonymous note on his windshield read fake. Buddy grew anxious, panting in cool weather, reluctant to walk familiar routes. Jax's PTSD symptoms worsened. He channeled his rage into research, discovering 2 formal complaints against Brenda's real estate license, both for disability discrimination, one involving a veteran with a service dog. Brenda was about to learn that targeting disabled veterans wasn't just morally wrong, it was a federal crime with career-ending consequences. 3 months into Brenda's harassment, she made the mistake that sealed her fate. It was a Tuesday evening. Jax and Buddy were on their usual walk, Buddy's service vest gleaming in the fading sunlight. Brenda emerged from behind her manicured hedge, a suburban predator brandishing a spray bottle. The acrid smell of ammonia and white vinegar, a toxic mix, hit Jax instantly. "Your dog attacked my prize roses," she shrieked, despite them being on the public sidewalk. "This natural pet deterrent will teach him to respect private property." Then the moment everything changed, Brenda aimed the bottle directly at Buddy's face. Not the ground, not the air, but straight at his eyes and nose. Jax's PTSD exploded. The aggressive movement, the chemical smell, Buddy's immediate distress. It triggered every combat instinct. But instead of violence, his training took over. Document everything. Stay calm. Let the enemy destroy themselves. "Brenda," Jax said, his voice deadly quiet. "Phone recording. You just committed a federal crime on camera." Buddy immediately showed signs of chemical exposure, drooling, frantically pawing at his burning eyes and sensitive nose. Jax's hands trembled, not from fear, but from a controlled rage at seeing his best friend tortured. Brenda, predictable as ever, denied everything, doubled down. "It's just natural ingredients. Ammonia and vinegar are completely harmless." That's when Jax made his strategic move. He speed-dialed Sophia, putting her on speaker. "Sophia, I need you to hear this." Brenda just sprayed chemicals directly in Buddy's face and claimed it was harmless. Sophia's voice was crystal clear. "Brenda, ammonia and vinegar create chloramine gas when mixed. You just chemically burned a federal service animal. That's a felony under the Americans with Disabilities Act." The color drained from Brenda's face as federal and felony registered. She tried to claim provocation, but Jax's cameras had captured Buddy walking calmly on his leash, on the public sidewalk, showing no aggression. Jax called 911. Officer Miller arrived. Buddy was still distressed, the chemical smell lingering. Officer Miller took one look and shook his head. "Ma'am, interfering with a service animal is a federal offense. We're talking a potential $50,000 fine and 6 months in jail." Brenda's meltdown was textbook entitlement. She demanded Officer Miller's supervisor, claimed Jax set her up, tried to rally Bob Davis, but Bob just walked back into his house. Neighbors emerged, Emily Carter recording from her kitchen. 3 others confirmed Jax and Buddy were on the public sidewalk. 2 hours later, the vet confirmed chemical burns on Buddy's nose and around his eyes. Minor, but undeniable proof of harm. Jax, ever the strategist, refused to press charges immediately. "I want to see how deep this goes," he told Officer Miller. "Give me the full 30-day window." Brenda thought she'd dodged a bullet. She had no idea Jax was using those 30 days to build a federal case that would dismantle her entire world. The chemical attack wasn't the end of her harassment. It was the evidence Jax needed to end. 3 weeks later, Sophia called Jax, her voice a mix of excitement and righteous fury. "Jax, you need to sit down for this. Brenda isn't just a petty HOA tyrant. She's running a full-scale gentrification scam, and your HOA has been paying for it." Within an hour, Jax's kitchen table was buried under 3 bankers' boxes of documents. The smell of coffee mingled with musty paper as Sophia unraveled 18 months of financial fraud. "Remember Brenda's brother-in-law, Mark, The fake property management consultant, Sophia asked, pointing to invoices. The HOA paid him $15,000 for inspections over the past year and a half. Mark has no licenses, no legitimate business. It's all fake. But that was just the beginning. Sophia had uncovered something far more sinister. Brenda's systematic campaign to force out undesirables wasn't random. It was a calculated real estate scheme. Look at this pattern, Sophia said, spreading a map marked with colored pins. Every family Brenda targeted lived in homes worth $20,000 to $30,000 above the neighborhood median. She harasses them until they sell cheap, then swoops in with below-market cash offers through shell companies. Jack stared at the map, combat adrenaline coursing through him. Red pins marked the forced-out families. Mrs. Jenkins, the Rodriguez family, the elderly couple with their granddaughter's seizure alert dog. Blue pins showed properties Brenda bought through various LLCs. She's been using HOA authority as a weapon to target protected classes, disabled residents, special needs families, the elderly. Once they're gone, she flips the properties for massive profit. The scale of it was breathtaking. Brenda used HOA funds to pay her brother-in-law for fake inspections, manipulated rules to target specific residents, while exempting allies, and even used community meetings to gather intelligence on vulnerable families. Jax's chemical attack wasn't an isolated incident. It was Brenda's desperate escalation. When her usual harassment failed to drive him away, she'd moved from psychological warfare to assault because Jax refused to play her game. There's more, Sophia added, showing bank records that made Jax's blood run cold. Brenda's been embezzling HOA funds beyond just Mark's fake fees. $23,000 in unauthorized expenditures over 2 years. Community improvement funds for playgrounds, street repairs, straight into Brenda's personal accounts. The paper trail was damning. Payments to herself for non-existent tree trimming, inflated printing costs for newsletters from her real estate office, even charging the HOA for her own home security system. But what truly made Jax's hands shake with controlled fury was Brenda's specific targeting of disabled veterans. She'd researched his finances, his divorce, his VA disability. She calculated that a single father on a fixed income couldn't afford prolonged legal battle. What Brenda hadn't calculated was that Jax had something more valuable than money. Sophia Rodriguez, a paralegal specializing in disability discrimination, and a growing network of neighbors finally ready to fight. The legal implications were staggering. Federal housing discrimination, up to $100,000 per violation. HOA embezzlement, a felony with 5-year prison sentences. Real estate license revocation, and now with systematic targeting, conspiracy charge. Jax looked at the evidence and realized he wasn't a victim. He was a prosecutor building a federal case that could set a national precedent. Brenda had handed him the nuclear option, and she had no idea what was coming. Sophia, Jax said quietly, how do we make sure she never does this to anyone else again? Sophia's smile was sharp as winter steel. We destroy her completely legally, ethically, and make sure every HOA in America learns from her example. Jax's living room became a war room. Sophia commanded the coffee table, buried under legal documents. Emily Carter managed community outreach from the couch. Eleanor Green, the retired teacher, explained HOA procedural rules from the fireplace. Buddy in the center was everyone's anchor. The scent of Sophia's strong Cuban coffee mingled with shuffling papers and clicking keyboards. This wasn't just about Buddy's chemical attack. It was about dismantling a system of discrimination, hiding behind suburban respectability. We're hitting her with everything at once, Sophia announced, spreading a timeline on the wall like a military map. 3 coordinated attacks. The first prong, federal civil rights violations. Jax's case was textbook ADA discrimination. Housing providers, including HOAs, cannot harass based on disability, demand medical documentation, or physically assault service animals. Penalties alone could hit. HOA board members are personally liable for discrimination, Sophia explained. Karen's personal assets are on the table. Emily's neighborhood network yielded explosive findings. 12 families had stories of Brenda's harassment. The elderly man told his hearing aids were disturbed. The woman whose husband used a wheelchair faced constant ramp complaints. The family with a diabetic daughter was told service dogs for invisible disabilities weren't legitimate. She's been running this scam for 3 years,
Emily reported. Every targeted family sold below market value. Brenda's made over $200,000 profit. The second prong, financial fraud. Eleanor provided HOA minutes showing Brenda's vote manipulation. Whenever expenditures were questioned, Brenda created drama about community standards. Her voting bloc, Bob, Patty, David, rubber-stamped every fraudulent payment. HOA embezzlement is a felony in Colorado, Sophia noted, but interstate banking makes this federal, triggering RICO provisions. Board members can't hide behind corporate protection when they steal community money. Brenda's house, her Mercedes, her real estate business, all vulnerable to asset forfeiture. The third prong, community organization. Eleanor, knowing bylaws better than Brenda, found the recall procedures Brenda hoped no one would discover. With evidence of misconduct, they could remove Brenda's entire block within 60 days. The annual HOA meeting is in 4 weeks, Eleanor announced. Perfect for maximum public humiliation. Federal investigators, local media, and every fearful neighbor will finally get their chance. Jax's role was crucial, dangerous, appear vulnerable while building an airtight case. Every interaction with Brenda recorded, every harassment time-stamped. Buddy endured stress, but Jax knew this was the only way to protect future families. Sophia contacted the FBI agent. Sarah Miller was highly interested. Systematic discrimination against disabled veterans was headline-grabbing, precedent-setting federal crime. The timeline was aggressive: 30 days to gather final evidence, coordinate with federal authorities, and prepare for Brenda's public downfall. By the annual meeting, Brenda would face federal charges, felony fraud, and total social destruction, all on camera. Remember, Sophia warned, Brenda will get desperate. Desperate people make stupid mistakes, but they also get dangerous. Document everything, trust no one in her circle, and never be alone with her. Jax looked at his unlikely army of suburban justice warriors, feeling a calm confidence he hadn't known since Afghanistan. Brenda had picked the wrong veteran. 3 weeks into Jax's investigation, Brenda's desperation began to show. Emily mentioned to her stylist, Brenda's stylist, that the neighborhood was rallying. By Tuesday, Brenda knew something was brewing. Her first move: evidence destruction. She claimed a catastrophic failure, corrupted 2 years of HOA financial records, even bringing in her teenage nephew to confirm the technical diagnosis. She didn't know Sophia had already subpoenaed bank records directly. You can delete files from a laptop, but not from Chase Bank. Every fraudulent payment, every embezzled fund, every suspicious transfer was preserved. While playing IT support, Brenda launched a social media smear campaign, creating fake Facebook accounts. Concerned Pinwood resident, property values match. She posted doctored photos, supposedly showing Buddy attacking children. The photoshopped images were laughably bad, pixel lines visible. Jax's response was simple. He let her lies speak for themselves. Every fake post screenshot and forwarded to Sophia. Every fabricated story fact-checked by neighbors. Brenda was building Jax's defamation case for him, then attempted bribery. Brenda approached Jax at the mailboxes, reeking of desperation and that vanilla perfume. The setting sun cast long shadows as she made her pitch. Jax, I think we can resolve this amicably, she said, pulling out a thick envelope. $10,000 cash, if you relocate voluntarily. Think of it as a fresh start fund. The community would be better off, and you could find somewhere more suitable for your needs. Jax's phone was recording in his pocket. Her offer wasn't just bribery, it was an admission of systematic discrimination, violating 17 federal laws. Brenda, Jax said calmly, are you offering me money to move because I have PTSD and a service dog? Well, when you put it like that, Brenda started, then caught herself. Too late. She'd confessed to federal housing discrimination. Recorded. Community pressure built. Former supporters distanced themselves. Bob Davis returned his HOA-funded security system, citing conflict of interest. Patty Miller discovered Brenda bad-mouthing her parenting to other board members. Even David Morris, Brenda's most reliable vote, asked questions after learning Brenda steered customers away from his landscaping business, while funneling HOA work to her brother-in-law Mark. Brenda's family imploded. Her husband David, filed for separation over her HOA obsession. Mark considered cooperating with investigators. Her teenage daughter blocked Brenda on all platforms. Due to her erratic social media, harassment escalated. Brenda parked outside Jax's house, taking photos through his fence. She called animal control daily with false reports, until officers threatened her with harassment charges. But her desperation led to her biggest tactical error: researching Jax's military service for character assassination. She contacted his ex-wife Sarah, hired a sketchy PI to dig into his medical records, even posted flyers questioning if Jax was really disabled enough. Each action was another federal crime: harassment of a disabled veteran, invasion of medical privacy, systematic discrimination. Brenda was gift-wrapping felony charges for Jax's legal team. Jax maintained composure, documenting everything with methodical patience. Buddy showed stress, but Jax knew they only had weeks left. Brenda's final desperate act: fear-mongering about dangerous veterans with PTSD. She had no idea Pinwood Heights housed 12 other veterans, including 2 Purple Heart recipients, who were sick of her implications. Attacking one veteran meant attacking them all. Brenda's nuclear option arrived 2 weeks before the annual HOA meeting. Her tactics were failing, destroying her life. She went scorched earth, hiring a PI specializing in veteran disability verification. Vince Stone, a sleazy ex-security guard, dug into Jax's military records, like investigating war crimes, paid $3,000 to prove Jax exaggerated his PT. Vince contacted Jax's former unit, ex-wife Sarah, even tried accessing VA files. Here's where Brenda's desperation became comedy gold. Vince's investigation revealed Jax earned a Purple Heart saving 3 soldiers during an IED attack, had commendations for valor under fire, and glowing character references. Sarah, despite the divorce, detailed Jax's integrity and genuine disabilities. But Brenda wasn't done. She used Vince's findings to create flyers. Is this man really disabled, PTSD or fraud? You decide. They included Jax's military photo, service details, and Brenda's editorial commentary on veterans milking the system. The community response was swift, brutal. Pinwood Heights 12 veterans felt personally insulted. Retired Marine Sergeant Mike O'Connell, previously neutral, organized a veterans support rally in Jax's front yard, drawing 30 people and local news. Jax's counter was masterful psychological warfare. He invited Channel 7 News to film Buddy's actual service work. The segment showed Buddy alerting Jax to approaching people, performing deep pressure therapy, and featured their vet explaining PTSD service dog training. Brenda's fake service dog narrative looked ridiculous. The story went viral locally, thousands of shares supporting Jax, roasting Brenda's conspiracy theories. The federal investigation escalated. Agent Sarah Miller, quietly building her civil rights case, saw Brenda's public harassment of a disabled veteran as a hate crime. Miss Thorne, Agent Miller explained, what started as HOA discrimination has become a federal hate crime. Mrs. Sterling's targeting of your military service and disability status elevates this beyond simple housing discrimination. We're talking potential federal prison time. Meanwhile, Brenda's final meltdown intensified. Her husband, David, filed for separation, citing her obsessive and destructive behavior. Clients canceled contracts. Her own mother refused calls. Brenda doubled down on conspiracy theory, posting rants about veteran privilege and disability scams funded by taxpayers, accusing Jax of weaponizing his PTSD, claiming service dogs were fake licensed emotional support pets, even suggesting Jax self-inflicted Buddy's chemical injury. Every post was screenshot by Sophia, added to the federal case file. Brenda was providing a real-time documentary of her hatred. Her masterpiece of self-destruction came at a local Safeway, where news cameras were coincidentally present for a charity store. Brenda screamed about special treatment and unfair advantages, while Jax calmly loaded groceries with Buddy. You people think you deserve everything handed to you.